Chris D writes, what are your thoughts on casting unknowns for big movies?
Oh, I love it. I love it when it's right, when it's a good fit, when there's a talent. You know, talent, a lot of times, you know, people hear me complain about certain people getting a role and whatever, and people say, oh, you're just saying that because they're unknown. No, there are lots of unknowns out there that have huge talent. Like I always go back to this, like a guy like Chris Hemsworth, right? Mm-hmm. People say, well, John, I mean, give Gal Gadot a chance. Nobody knew who Chris Hemsworth was. It's not an issue about whether or not people knew who they were. Casting agencies in Hollywood have known who Chris Hemsworth was for a long time. They were looking for a long time for the right vehicle for a dude like that. Trust me, they've been targeting him. A guy like Superman.
Brandon Routh?
No.
The other one.
Henry Cavill.
Yeah, Henry Cavill. Yeah.
Henry Cavill is a guy they've been looking at to give big major lead roles. He was almost the new James Bond. He was almost Superman back in Superman Returns. He was almost this, he was almost that. I mean, he's been identified for his talent for a very long time. Known, unknown is not the issue. The issue is talent. So just because you got an unknown does not mean they cannot be ridiculously and stupidly talented. So I love it when we get to see big unknown. No, don't get me wrong. I understand why big marquee titles and whatever that a studio feels safer going with, hopefully a really good talent who's also a recognizable name. I get that, and I don't fault them for that. Totally understand. As long as it's talent, I don't care if it's a big star or somebody we've never heard of.
Yeah. I like sprinkles, meaning that you put an unknown in there, but you have some really known talent around him sometimes too. Like again, we want to talk about all the rumors in Star Wars that are going around. There's a rumor that Gary Oldman's supposed to be in the movie. That'd be great. And then a bunch of unknowns in the main role too that get to prove themselves, and that's how we're now going to recognize them as that character. I'm all for that, because sometimes I think if you cast someone too big, you can't look at them as the character. So I think casting an unknown in the right spot, as you mentioned before, is absolutely sometimes crucial to do. But sometimes you can misfire too. Going to Attack of the Clones, you want to Hayden Christensen, didn't work. Yeah. Again, I do like the unknown. I think that again, depending on the situation, it can really work for the best.
Agreed. All right, what's next?
Nice Guy writes, hello guys, speaking of movie sequels yesterday, what movie would you like to see get a sequel that never did?
I have two that I always go back to. One most of you have never heard of. It's called Megaforce, and it's kind of like a poor man's G.I. Joe. So go back. I don't even think you can find it on DVD. But if you search Megaforce, you'll see the ridiculous looking pictures. For some reason, to me, it's just delicious. The other one that I still to this day cross my fingers and hold out hope for is Mystery Men. I loved the original Mystery Men. I mean, Hank Azaria, I mean, with the Blue Raja, the Shoveler, Mr. Furious. These characters were so great. The movie was so funny. I've always wanted to see another one. I cannot imagine why they haven't done another one. So those are the two for me.
One that I'm hesitant about, because I love the first one so much and don't want it to be touched, but curious where they can go with the story, is Inception. There's part of me that says, no, it's good, let's leave it alone, but then it's like, what happened to Cobb? What's going to go on next? And as far as comedy goes, I think Old School could be fun. Like, what are those guys doing now?
Oh my God, right? I've never even thought about that. That's a really
old
school.
Yeah, old school. Like, what are they doing now? And then they've been talking about it. Goonies too. But if they do it, like when I had watched you talk about it, and I agree with you that I'd rather see what these guys are doing now. Those are the characters we fell in love with.
Yeah, not what their kids are doing.
No, that's just the easy thing to do. Let's go with the characters.
All right, let's take three more.
Okay, Lars Christensen writes, are there any actors that has the potential to reach Pacino, De Niro class? If so, who?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of them right now. I talked about a couple of them the other day, actually. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis, I mean, already is... I'll say this: Daniel Day-Lewis is better than De Niro and Pacino have ever been. I think I think Daniel Day-Lewis is in the conversation of the greatest of all time. I think there's a conversation to have there about the greatest of all time. I think when you look at young guys, I think Daniel Craig is actually really quite good. I think if he starts getting into more films outside of Bond and starts showing off his stuff, I loved him in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I think that showed a different angle, but he has a lot further to go. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's at De Niro Pacino level now. He's nowhere near it now, but I see a lot in him that I think if he keeps going and keeps going, I believe he can get there. Some other guys that come to mind, I mean, I love Chiwetel Ejiofor. I've
Yeah.
been on his bandwagon for about 5 years. I think he's magnificent. We talked a little bit the other day about Andrew Garfield. I believe give Andrew Garfield 20 more years. Give him 20 more years. I think he's going to have a collection of Oscars on his mantle. I think he's going to be really good. So, yeah, there's a lot of really good talent out there right now.
See, I loved Pacino in his early days for sure, and he's one of my heroes. But he still does the same thing now. De Niro, what he does, De Niro still had that thing where he was a chameleon, like you said,
Yeah.
with Daniel Day-Lewis. That to me is the caliber we're talking about here, and I think that the example of Daniel Day-Lewis is the best because of what he's able to do. He was Lincoln.
Yeah.
He was Wild Bill. He was these people. Someone who I think is going to get there is Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy transforms himself like this. That guy, he's going to play Elton John, and I believe he can do it. He can play a tough gangster. He was he was so great in Warrior. He didn't say anything in that movie, but he entered the ring like he was Mike Tyson, and you believed it. And there's just something about him. He's that special kind of actor that when you saw De Niro back in the 70s and 80s, you went, "What's he doing next? Oh, he's Raging Bull. He's this. He's Cape Fear." And so I think Tom Hardy is that guy.
I think the Elton John biopic, I think that is going to say a lot about where we're, because if he can nail that, there's no limit. There's no limit.
And then he's Mad Max.
Yeah, and then he's Mad Max after that. Yeah.
Elton John is Mad Max.
All right, 2 more.
Beto Diaz writes, "Hey guys, what is your favorite comedic and sad scene from Forrest Gump?"
Oh man, favorite comedic scene. I just anytime you see the first time he just starts running, it's like when he's running through the field, the football field, and they're just you see that dart of this guy go by, and you're like, that scene to me, I always remember it because these guys are just watching this dart, and then he's so dopey, but everything kind of happened for him, and you're rooting for him. As far as sad, I mean, Jenny dying, man. I mean, his whole life and everything that happened. The girl really messed him up.
I have an unfair bias against Forrest Gump.
What's the bias?
I really, because it is a great movie. It is a wonderful movie, but I'm always got and it's totally not its fault, and it's unfair that I feel this way, but I always have a mad on against it. Because it won Best Picture in the year when one of the greatest films in the history of film ever made was out that same year, which is Shawshank Redemption. Which now, when you look on any top 10 list anywhere, you don't see Forrest Gump in people's top 10 list. You see Shawshank Redemption in top 10 all-time lists.
Because no one saw Shawshank when it was in the theater.
Yeah, but the Oscars give out awards to lots of movies that nobody sees.
You'd be surprised a lot of the times, depending on the box office, even the limited theaters, they take that into consideration, which you'd be surprised to know that. But again, I remember I saw Shawshank in a dollar theater when I was 12 or something, and I remember seeing that movie going, "This is something."
But I remember
incredible.
who on earth won Best Picture the other year, the black and white silent film.
The Artist.
The Artist.
Yeah.
Who saw The Artist? Nobody saw The Artist.
Right, that's true.
I mean, it was just, so it's totally unfair, but I cannot answer the question because I have a completely unfair bias against Forrest Gump. All right, last question.
Ann Curtis writes, "Is there any film that you guys are worried about that's coming out this year? Mine's Spider-Man 2.
Oh, I have no worries about Spider-Man 2. I'm a little bit worried about Godzilla because its potential is so great, and we've seen Godzilla messed up before. So I have a little bit of fear in that. So I'm really hoping that it blows us away the way we're hoping it blows us away. I can't really think of anything else off the top of my head that I'm worried about. Days of Future Past, look, the trailers have been stupid good, but, it's still Fox with X-Men. While they created a couple of magnificent X-Men films, they've had a couple of flops at the same time. So I'm a little bit worried about that, too. So those are the two for me.
It's funny, because when I hear you talk about both Godzilla and X-Men, I think if you're going to see a comedian that you know is really funny, you're just nervous for him because he's your friend.
Yeah. That's a great example.
But for me, I'm going to go with A Million Ways to Die in the West, because the thing that's scary. Look, I loved Ted. I loved it. I thought it was really, really funny and a nice surprise when it came out. I just don't know how Seth MacFarlane is as a lead actor. That is what
we haven't really seen anything.
No, and and I don't know. Is it one of these cases of a guy who just wants to be in the spotlight all the time with his writing and directing and everything to it? He might surprise us, but that's what makes me nervous because I want it to be so funny. The trailers for me haven't really done it for me yet.
Right.
Hey everyone, if you liked this video, click that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's free and helps you stay up to date with all the latest movie news, as well as our daily AMC movie talk show. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our special promotions, contests, and prize giveaways.